Being poor is weirdly really expensive. When you really think about it, traffic tickets only exist to hurt poor people. Imagine if multi-millionaire Will Smith, you know, the famous actor, philanthropist, and MMA fighter, got a speeding ticket for $200. Do you think someone at his status is going to take time out of his day to schedule a court appointment and make a court appearance to fight that ticket off? No. $200 is pocket change to him. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if someone like him threw measly couple thousands of dollars towards lawyer fees just to scrub-a-dub-dub his driver's record clean from that ticket. However, for someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, where every dollar goes towards living expenses to survive, an unexpected $200 could be the difference between staying afloat and homelessness. Hi there! If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for showing your lovely face. In this channel, I like discussing financial topics, environmental trends, and city living. You know the drill. My name is Rin, and let's dive right in. Being poor is probably one of the most expensive things someone can do, which sounds really counterintuitive. When I say poor, I don't mean the I have $12 in my bank account because I blew my paycheck on random Amazon purchases that TikTok made me buy. I mean the 12.8% of Americans living in poverty. And that 12.8% of people don't include the people who are just above the poverty line and barely scraping by just to afford rent and put food on the table. Being poor is more than just not having money. It also means having less access to reliable transportation, access to healthy foods, and also access to affordable healthcare. There are so many things that exist just to keep poor people poor, and here's to name a few. The most affordable places to live in the US are coincidentally in food deserts, which are areas where proper grocery stores are very few and far in between and require a car to get to them. Which means the only options for food are from fast food restaurants and convenience stores. And the last time I checked, the healthy food section in a convenience store is one of the most aggressively depressing things I've ever seen in my life. If you have ever stepped foot in a produce section, especially nowadays, fruits and veggies are so expensive. To give an example, for the price of a large, non-organic Honeycrisp apple, you could buy 2 boxes of macaroni and cheese. If you're trying to make money last, buying 2 meals is a better option than buying 1 healthy snack for the same price, especially when factoring in the price to calories ratio. While cheaper foods are usually better in terms of price to calories, they also tend to err on usually being more processed and having less nutritional value. So in the long term, predominantly eating these kinds of foods could lead to obesity or other long-term health issues. Think about it like instead of paying extra money for healthier groceries, you're sacrificing your health. Which brings me to my next point. If you are bleeding red, white, and blue, you should probably go see a doctor. And good luck affording that copay. Unfortunately, in the US, healthcare is really expensive, but there is a free option through Medicaid. The downside? In order to qualify for free healthcare, you have to be making under 133% of the federal poverty line. From my own experience, I was on Medicaid from my childhood up to when I graduated college, and I gotta say, it's a great program. Is it the best healthcare option out there? No, definitely not. The options for care providers are a lot more limited compared to private health insurance plans, but it gets the job done for basic care. However, I wouldn't rely on Medicaid to fully cover obscure surgeries or treatments because they're probably not going to do that. If you really think about it, our system de-incentivizes escaping poverty. Take Medicaid's coverage cliff as an example. Once you earn more than 133% of the federal poverty line, which is around $19,000 a year, you no longer qualify for Medicaid. It's this weird paradox of being better off in the upper end of poverty rather than being in the lower end of working class. God forbid you make even a single dollar over that Medicaid income threshold, otherwise you'll have to find your own insurance, cover your own treatments and medications. Oh, and keep your fingers crossed that nothing catastrophic happens while you're uninsured. Have you ever heard of the boots theory? And no, it's not the whole concept of pulling yourself up from your bootstraps. Absolutely not. This theory provides a simple explanation. The rich are rich because they are in a position to make better financial decisions. Take boots, for example. Joe Schmo earned 35 silver coins every month. A really good pair of leather boots costs 50 silver coins. But an affordable pair of boots, which are good enough just to last a season, costs 10 silver coins. Joe Schmo went for the cheap pair, because that's all he could afford and he would repurchase it after every season. Over the next 10 years, Joe Schmo has purchased 10 pairs of the more affordable boots, totaling 100 silver coins. Had he purchased the more expensive leather boots in the first place, he would have 50 more coins and a pair of boots that would last for more seasons to come. If you're enjoying this video so far, why don't you consider giving this video a big thumbs up? I would really appreciate it. Plus, it's free, so you really have nothing to lose. Anyways, on with the video. Nowadays, the price of high-quality clothing is rudely offensive and actually appalling. It feels like the only affordable clothing options available are through fast fashion, where it feels like the clothing falls apart after being exposed to a single droplet of water, and the slim pickings of whatever is left in secondhand stores after the Depop resellers make their rounds. A credit score is a prediction of how likely you are to pay a loan back on time based on information from your credit reports. Someone with less ability to pay back a loan is a higher risk for the bank, and that risk is reflected in the interest rates. Those who are a bigger risk pay more in interest than those who are considered less risky. Like if Jeff Bezos decided to strut up to the bank for whatever reason and ask the bank for a loan of $1 million, he would probably get it with a near 0% interest rate, because banks know that he is good to pay it back. With that being said, income doesn't directly impact credit scores, but the two factors are related. Why? One possible reason is that it is harder to pay down debts consistently for someone with a lower income than it would be for someone with a higher income. Of course, this varies based on personal expenses and total debt, but I will say that it is probably easier for someone who is making $100,000 a year to pay off a $15,000 emergency loan than it would be for someone who is making $30,000 a year. Credit isn't supposed to be fair, and it's supposed to protect the bank from people who might fail to repay them. Overdraft fees happen when a banking customer withdraws or spends more money in their account than what is available in the account. Some scummy banks charge overdraft fees when the bank account reaches a low balance. Each instance of an overdraft can accrue anywhere from $5 to $50 in fees depending on the bank, which can quickly add up in a year. Overdraft fees are major profit centers for banks, with numbers reaching tens of billions of dollars annually, and this is purely profit. The key to understanding overdraft is that a small number of customers account for the vast majority of overdrafts. 80% of overdraft fees come from 9% of account holders. The same data shows that 1 out of every 12 banking customers had 10 or more overdrafts a year, paying on average $380 a year in overdraft fees. For a person earning $38,000 a year, that is 1% of their annual income spent in overdraft fees alone. It's easier to accidentally overdraft your bank account than you might think. When you're one of the millions of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, one single emergency expense, like your car breaking down during your morning commute, could wipe out your bank account. So any charge on top of that, like paying your $10 monthly subscription to Netflix, could actually end up costing you $35 a month after factoring in the overdraft fee. A payday loan is a smaller loan with atrociously high fees and tight repayment deadlines. These predatory loans exist to take advantage of people who are desperate for money with no remorse. People who are desperate for money typically don't have much money in the first place and exhausted all of their options. These predatory loans exist to take advantage of people who are desperate for money, which is a sad thing to think about because people who are typically desperate for money have already exhausted their options, and payday loans are pretty much their last resort. Personally, I believe payday loans should be illegal, and I have no idea why they still exist. Let's face it, money carries momentum, and it's a lot easier to make $1 million when you're starting off with $10 million than starting out with $0. Much like the compounding returns personal finance gurus preach about when you put money into the stock market, once you find yourself in a particular situation, it's easy to stay in it. Sort of like a cycle. A self-perpetuating cycle that gets harder and harder to get out of the longer someone stays in it. It takes a lot of effort to break out of poverty, more so than any other socioeconomic class moving on to the next. But in the US, we live in a pseudo-capitalistic society with some aspects of socialism, which comes in the form of government welfare programs to help with the lowest income earners. The current system is designed to keep economically disadvantaged people poor, as it rewards the lowest income earners and it penalizes folks who make it just above the income threshold. This creates a positive feedback loop that encourages folk to stay in their poor financial positions, as bettering their financial position makes them worse off overall. So a question that is often asked is, what if we just remove these social welfare programs and safety nets to discourage people from staying in this positive feedback loop? Well, it's not that simple. There's a high number of people who are relying on these programs for survival, which makes cutting these programs inhumane and puts a lot of lives in jeopardy. Other countries experiencing a similar pain point have attempted strategies to help alleviate it by phasing out welfare benefits gradually as income increases, continuing to provide welfare benefits for a set time limit after someone becomes employed, and offering a fixed universal basic income. These methods have been tried in more limited scale, so there isn't really a good gauge on how implementing any of these would be on a larger, countrywide scale. Unfortunately, there really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to getting out. But that also means there's a lot of flexibility for coming up with new solutions to fix the current system. And with that, I'll end the video. If you enjoyed watching, please give this video a big thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this in the future. Also, drop a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the secret costs of being poor, and how you would revamp the system in order to help people get out of poverty. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Doodles! It feels like the only affordable clothing options available are through fast food. God, I wish it was fast food. Fast food.